Yeah, for sure. I mean, Nick, who do you think the Suns would choose, knowing that the Pelicans are still in there as an option to get to 5 as well? Who do you think the Suns would choose if they could for their opposite number in the 4-5 match?
Eh, Not the Warriors, not the Clippers. But at this point, B, I obviously haven't watched the Clippers play the Suns. The Clippers, when they're healthy and everybody's out there, Kawhi, Paul George, the length, that is a tough matchup. But I tell you that I don't think the Suns fear anybody, and I don't think they fear anybody because Kevin's back. I think it's really that simple. If they had to make their pick, my guess would be that they'd rather see a Warriors team that just cannot get right on the road instead of a Clippers team that we've seen when they are up and running, they can play with anybody. But I just don't think it matters. I think they know if Kevin is out there, if Booker is playing at the level we know he can, that they can beat anybody in their way. And I think such a big mental hurdle for Kevin came in just playing in that game at home in Phoenix the other night against Minnesota. I mean, guys, I was standing in the locker room. He comes running in from the pregame, and he comes into the training room, and you could hear him. He goes, "We got through that," because he was his mind was so focused on that
Not
strange
spraining his ankle.
exactly, getting through, not spraining his ankle, and such a weird injury that occurred, B, when you were there the first time. So once that occurred, and they've just been able to play the game, and the focus, and this ties back into all the Dallas drama, the focus is just on the game of basketball. Of course, they're going to have an interesting and tough first round matchup, but I just don't think it matters to them because they know at their best, at least the belief is, they'll roll through anybody in their way.
Nick, were you inspired by Tim Bonsem's Twitter account where he's just putting up curse words without any sort of redaction now that you're going to start cursing on the pod? Is that?
I haven't even seen. Is Timmy B cussing on Twitter now?
No. He quoted Kyrie Irving saying it was a cluster F, but he wrote the full word.
Oh, wow.
You just told us a story about Kevin Durant just dropping an expletive.
I mean, it needed it for emphasis.
I see.
It needed it for emphasis, but no, I don't want to make this a common theme. I can handle myself when I need to.
Brian, I do have one point about the Suns' death because I agree with you. It's been something that's concerning to me name-wise when you look at their group, because it's like who obviously you lose Cam Johnson in the trade, who was a reliable player off their bench over the last couple of years. But overall numbers, and again, this is the season numbers, so the team has changed, but they're 11th in the league in bench scoring for the season. They're top 5 in bench point differential. And
I wouldn't have expected that. That's actually a pretty surprising stat.
And a couple guys who obviously hadn't had the time to fully fit in, but playing alongside Kevin Durant, I could see Terrence Ross and TJ Warren, having some moments in these playoffs. I think the depth that does concern me is after DeAndre Ayton, and he's been known for having some foul troubles in the past. After DeAndre Ayton, Jock Landale and Bismack Biyombo and maybe Ish Wainwright, like that is pretty thin. And they're going to have to potentially face some dominant big men in the playoffs, and Anthony Davis and obviously Nikola Jokic, and so they get to the finals. You're talking about
Zubac.
Yeah, sure. It was big.
But, I thought about this. So first off, Jackson points something out that last year, you remember Boston. Remember this, Nick? Boston had a sort of a choice on whether or not they should try to win and get Brooklyn. People were worried about Brooklyn. They just said screw it and won and got Brooklyn. And it also put them on the same side of the bracket as Milwaukee. And they just did it. And they smacked Brooklyn. They swept them, right? Mm-hmm. Wasn't it sweet?
Yeah. Yep, it was.
And then they beat Milwaukee in 7. It ended up working out for them because, it's not just when you look at trying to get the 6th seed, it's not just trying to play sack. It's also avoiding the side of the bracket with Phoenix and Denver. And I know people will kind of say, well, why would the Lakers, who have been over 500 for 15 minutes, be trying to worry about what side of the bracket they're on? Well, if you had a choice, why wouldn't you? If you could do some manipulation and you actually felt like you get away with it, why wouldn't you? But in thinking about the Suns, I think they would obviously probably rather. So here's the thing: the Pelicans give the Suns problems. Okay, I don't know if like Willie, like one thing like last year when they played him in the playoffs, like Willie Green pressured the heck out of Chris Paul, and it really bothered them. Jose Alvarado was hurt, so they, but that whole thing was, caused an issue. It's not a comfortable matchup for the Suns. Okay, so while they're probably of those teams in terms of straight talent, probably the weaker team, I'm not sure the Suns would choose that in the draft. Obviously, the Warriors. I wouldn't want the Warriors, Nick, because I'm afraid of. Not afraid. That's a trigger word in the NBA. If you're afraid, you're scared. I don't want to mess with that potential lineup that was a finals team. I mean, I agree that they haven't demonstrated that they can get it done on the road, but they're still potent. So the Lakers, I keep saying that the Lakers are not really the 7th seed. That's where they are right now. By tomorrow, they may be the 5th seed. Because their record to me is not 40-38. Their record is what they are since the trade, which is 14-7, and that's without mostly LeBron. And I think AD is a real weapon that is hard to manage. So I tentatively think they might want the Clippers. We know Paul George is probably not going to play in that series. Kawhi has been really good lately. They're just so inconsistent. They're really deep. But I don't feel strongly about it, but I might say the Clippers. I might. I don't know. It gets strange, and that's just such a weird thing where you're in control as the 4th seed. I think historically in the 7-game series of the first round, which I think now is like 20 years old, the 4 seed has won 58% of the time. So, it's
awesome.
It's close. Yeah, it's close. But like, I don't, there's never been a year like this. And then you look at the difference between 5 and 6. I don't know. My guess is that Friday, Dave, the Suns will play to win, because if nothing else, they're going to need the reps. They really can't, they really could just use more time together. Also, it's a good environment because the Lakers are probably, going to be incentivized to win probably. And just, it's a team that's playing really well right now. So I don't know. We'll talk about the Lakers in a bit, but I think there's more clarity if you're like the Lakers or Warriors who you'd rather not play the Suns as opposed to the Suns situation.
I think the part that would scare me is the word that you mentioned with the Clippers, though, and that's depth. They can just hit you in so many different ways. And Dave, I mean, we outlined the Suns don't really have that kind of depth, certainly, but they don't have those guys right now that we would trust going through the roster before a playoff series to say, okay, I know exactly what I'm getting from this guy, this guy, this guy. I mean, Damian Lee won a title with the Warriors. He hadn't even been playing. So there are a lot of different layers to this, but I think you could make that argument for any of those teams you mentioned, the New Orleans, the Warriors, certainly with Steph, and a motivated Draymond going against Kevin every night. I mean, people were talking about that finals. Can you imagine if that finals had ever happened? Warriors versus Nets. It never occurred, but Draymond would make it his personal mission after every game to just take the mic and just start railing on whatever was in front of him, and all the old stuff with Kevin and the competitiveness between those two guys. So Yeah. I think you could go either way, but I think Kevin is that ultimate trump card.
That is a good point, though, because Brian, when I was covering the Cavs those years and we spent a ton of time in Cleveland together, there was always the talk this time of the season, are the Cavs going to play Miami? And what type of kind of mental warfare would that play on LeBron James? And I wonder the same thing with the Suns, the people around the Suns organization. Obviously, they have total confidence in Kevin Durant's abilities. It's not about that. It's just the extra layer of having a Warriors playoff series. And if that would add, the Draymond factor, if that would add something to it that they'd rather avoid.
He's still never played in Chase. Remember that part of it. He's never had the game with fans.
Yeah.
And the Warriors made that big video that they've been waiting to play now for a while. He had the COVID game when there was nobody in there, but there's never been.
They didn't play the video during the COVID game? Like, why
Well,
not?
they played a smaller one. Now there's supposed to be a bigger one, or was supposed to be when.
Well, no, wait a minute. Let's call it 20-second timeout. 20-second timeout. Would you play a tribute video game in a playoff series, in a playoff game? I don't think I would do that.
Wow. Now this is good. I you know what? Going off what Dave was just saying, I probably would. because then you've got Kevin who's going to try to block all this stuff out, but you would think it's a big standing ovation because they're showing him knockdown shot after shot over LeBron and winning those 2 titles. I would play it if for no other reason than just to be like, hey, Kevin, you're the man. Well, we're going to go try to win now, but hey, thanks for the memories.
Yeah, just shine a light on the elephant in the room.
I'm thinking about that. So, the Warriors are a classy organization for the most part. I could see them wanting to do it. But, in the playoffs, it's all out battle. It's not really a couth thing to honor an opponent. Unless they thought it would somehow get inside Kevin's head, which has been known to happen. I don't know.
Playoff basketball is as, contrasted and ruthless and black and white as that background that you have behind you, Brian.
Thank you, sir.
I've been waiting for a moment to talk about that background also.
A pro right there, folks.
He left in 2019. He has already left. I mean, it seems kind of strange. I don't think they do it.
But B, this is what Dave's saying. It's mental. The playoffs are mental. What can you do to get some kind of advantage when you can get it? And as much as Kevin may brush it off, the hype would certainly be there going into that first game, if that is indeed the matchup. And if they press play in the middle of the first quarter, and it's just all these Kevin highlights of him kicking everybody's butt up and down the floor, and then they cut to him. If for nothing else, it would be one awkward playoff moment. That is for sure. Oh my
God. Look, I would love to see the Warriors play the Suns. I would just like to see it in the conference finals. Not necessarily the first round, because I don't know if either of them could be their best in the first round, but there are other conference finals matchups that would be really intriguing as well, such as, potentially Warriors Lakers could happen in the conference finals. Of course, it could be Nuggets Grizzlies 1-2. The chalk could carry. That could happen.
Adam Silver not exactly as enthralled with that possibility.
Well, I'm just wondering, when it comes to Nuggets, I mentioned this on the pod the other day. I'm just wondering, where this